Hello, everyone. Welcome to Synchronic Saturdays with Megan and Crystal. If you are new to this podcast, I'm an ENFJ. She's an ENFP. How's it going?
It's going well. How about you?
It's good. It's been a while since we've done this. We've kind of taken a break due to just vacation. I had some vacations, family stuff. I know Crystal's had some stuff going on, but we're happy to be back. And this episode is going to be about extroverted feeling and the spectrum of behavior that you might find from someone either that uses extroverted feeling or perhaps it's extroverted feeling showing up as a shadow. So if you guys have been following along this high vibe, low vibe series, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you have not, I would recommend going to episode 14 where we define the terms high vibe and low vibe, which is what we're going to be talking about here today. But the gist of it is that low vibe, we're seeing the function on a spectrum of behavior. Low vibe is a denser, more fragmented, and more contracting energy, while high vibe is more open, it's more whole, it's lighter, and it's expansive energy. Depending on where you are in your life, you might be anywhere on the spectrum. It's not good or bad. So we're not trying to shame anyone who is guilty of these low vibe behaviors. We think pretty much everyone is or has been at some point. And if you want to know more about FE, episode 8 and 10 are about FE. And as we've already discussed, SI seeks homeostasis, NI seeks understanding, TI seeks truth, and FI seeks what matters. And so we're going to be completing this puzzle today with the extroverted functions. So should I just share them?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been talking a lot. I didn't want to interrupt you, but okay. So FE, what we're going to be talking about today, seeks mutual benefit, or in other words, they want value for all. And we're going to be talking about how that manifests today. But in contrast, TE seeks efficacy. So efficacy is about, how capable is this thing? How possible is this to actually work? And they do that. Mm-hmm. They want shared efficacy as well. They don't just want it to work for them. They want everything to work. So that's a little bit different than FE, mutual benefit. SE seeks impact, and NE seeks to imagine. And if you're excited about those topics, we'll get into that later. But today we're talking about FE seeking mutual benefit. So I'm very excited to chat about this today. It is my top function. So, but I think I want to hand it off actually to you, Crystal, first, since I've been blabbing. Do you have anything just off the top of your head you'd like to say about FE, or would you like me to ask you a question?
Ask me a question.
Okay. Do you think that there are any misconceptions about FE in general that we should spend time debunking or talking about before we go into my definitions?
I don't necessarily think that we should spend time debunking it in advance. But there is quite a lot to debunk, maybe like going along the way.
Okay. So I
attempt to list some common misconceptions because I have been noticing. Okay, I know what to say. Mm-hmm. So I'll start with saying that I've noticed that just in my conversations, a lot of people that know type tend to not be able to identify a male ENFJ,
or ESFJ.
Or sorry, just any person that's an FE Dom, so EFJ or ESFJ, or ENFJ or ESFJ. And, or for that matter, maybe most male FJs. And it's because
Russell, I'm just going to say Russell Brand, Shane Dawson, FE Doms.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's always been easy for me to spot those people because they are so freaking obnoxious and don't know how to take a hint when I say stop joking. And male ENFPs are not that way, or ESFPs. But I think to me, a lot of misconceptions of how extroverted feeling manifests are, you know, kind of plaguing the populace. So I kind of see it as like when you first learn about type, you look at extroverted feeling and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I'm able to identify that, because in your head you might have like a stereotype of like someone that like really like basic sort of maybe sorority girl, ESFJ, ENFJ archetype that just talks and talks and talks about herself, blah, 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 like things like that. But you're not going to necessarily realize that that's not the only way that like FE comes off. It just doesn't just talk about itself and stuff.
Also, I do think that also can be confusing, because a lot of people hear that FE is everybody else's emotions and FI is your emotion. And so why would there be the impression that FE talks about itself then? Because I do agree that is an impression that people have.
Yeah, talks about itself / gossips or something, you know, or anyways. But yeah, like I think a lot of people just think that like FE is either like super really giving or something like that. They're really like apologetic, like, oh, like, and they're hospitable, when in my opinion, like really selfish, like FJs, they don't necessarily look like that like stereotype of like ever giving, ever like your mother or something, right? Like some people I think don't realize how it is truly an objective function. In my experience, I think the easiest way to spot an FJ is to see if they're always trying to react to the group regardless. You have to kind of like really study where they're coming from a lot, because if they're telling a joke and it seems to be addressed on behalf of like provoking or triggering the group, it's still in reaction to a collective, and it's not like because I wanted to tell this joke, I'm gonna tell it. If it's gonna kind of like almost like the energy is like this joke makes every single person like react as well as themselves. Like I feel like FJs just like throwing like bombs out there to like affect the collective emotion. And
I think that a lot of our humor in general is trying to get a rise out of people, because we like play with those emotions. And I mean, I think that you see this more clearly with ENTPs and ESTPs, because they use their FE in a very playful way, where they're often seen as trolls or whatever, and they'll sort of poke fun at you. But FE, DOMs, and OX people do this as well. I've seen a lot of FJs either share memes or say things where they're like, if I don't like you, I won't say anything to you. But if I do like you, I'll make fun of you. Like, because that's actually a sign that we feel comfortable with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that like really annoyed when people think that like an FJ is an FP or vice versa or something, just because they don't seem to be talking about how they're Mother Teresa. Like that seems to be the extreme. The only then will someone be like, that's an FJ for sure. But hello, like FJs have like other things to do besides think about giving to other people. Doesn't mean they're not thinking about.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and like let's say it with me now. I want you all to write this as a comment. Morality has nothing to do with FI or FE. FE is not more moral than FI. FI is not more moral than FE. FE is not the only person that or type that is going to display their morality. And if an FJ is not displaying their morality, that doesn't mean they're not an FJ. And if an FP is being giving to the group, that doesn't mean they're an FJ.
Okay. I know, right? Like seriously. But like, okay, to be fair though, I sometimes do have trouble typing FJs, but because I'm aware that it's hard sometimes to type FJs, I never just base it off like a singular rule or phenomenon.
The truth is that it's because we're reacting to you. It's hard for people to imagine what an FJ looks like when they're alone, because if you see an FJ, they're talking to you. And if an FJ was next to somebody else, they're going to be talking to them.
Yeah,
and
no,
that's why we're seen as
the interesting part.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's the interesting part, because I actually was thinking about that. Like, as an FP, I am always the same pretty much across the board, no matter who I'm talking to. And when people realize this, especially FJs, they're literally mind blown that like, wait, Crystal is this familiar and friendly with everyone? Oh, and I've had like FJ guys be salty because they thought they were special or something, because I realized like at first, like when I was younger, I was like, why are FJ guys so salty that I'm like the same to everyone? Like, why does that matter? But then I realized it's like the opposite of what they do. Like FJs are like kind of chameleons who like kind of like can mold to the environment, and because the other person they're talking to is the environment, that person's vibe is also going to translate to if you're awkward, they're awkward, and like all this stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean an FJ isn't going to be principled, but it does mean that they aren't going to ignore like you. Like not that FPs do, but a lot of times in FP you're going to talk about something because it was on your mind and you felt like talking about it, where an FJ might see you and think, oh, I bet we have this in common, this could be a good conversation, and then they'll say it because they're reacting to the emotions between the two of you versus the emotions that you have.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because as someone who like I like literally have like single-handedly just sat there and given like 10-minute monologues on like things I'm passionate about, and watched an FJ just nod, and then I'll be like come to and be like, oh my god, they didn't say anything for 10 minutes, but they were like listening the whole time. And it's like so interesting because
FP's like sounding boards. Wait, did you hear what I said?
Yeah, like literally sometimes I can disassociate, like whenever yes, I heard that. Whenever Megan goes to the bathroom, I just keep talking, and she like watches the video later, she's like, it's like I'm there, but like I'm not. Like she just keeps on talking as if nothing happened. I feel like you probably could not do that.
I feel like an FP, especially an NFP, is like that sort of person in a movie where like they're waiting for the bus and a stranger sits down and you're like, you ever thought about life? And you're just like talking, and then the stranger walks away and you're still talking and you didn't realize they were gone.
That actually happened to me multiple times, like in real life. Like I'll be at the grocery store, I'm like, you know, sometimes it's really weird to be like standing here and like you're about to like get like one of those stupid existential comments, and the person's like, oh yeah, I totally get you. That makes sense. But FJs don't fucking do that unless they're really emotional. Unless they like had a really bad day or had a breakup, then they'll be like, I just don't understand how like this or whatever to someone. But I do that like for fun all the time because I'm always the same no matter what. So I don't care. But FJs are not gonna disturb someone's like shopping trip to the grocery store to just talk about their feelings.
Yeah, and FJ, a lot of times people might stereotypically think of an FJ as the one that talks to the clerk at the grocery store or whatever.
Only if they're comfortable with you.
Yes.
Only if they're like, if you're in their friend group, yeah, like no shit. If anything, I clam up during one of those things way more.
Or go ahead.
I said I clam up around a group of people I actually like more than with strangers, but I think FJ is like the opposite, where if they're comfortable with you or like making themselves be comfortable for a specific purpose, like a YouTube video, then, you know, like they'll like give that. But it's not like, I think Megan has touched on this in multiple videos, but like you must observe an FJ in like multiple settings to get a sense of who they are objectively, because you cannot look. So that's why it's interesting when people try to like spot an FJ right away, because it's hard unless you have multiple stimuli. I would say it's easier for me to spot an FP because they're just so pushy energetically at times, but I think FJs are so much more subtle and muted.
Well, I was just going to say that using the grocery store like clerk example, you're going to have FJs that are thinking, well, one, I don't have the energy to talk to this person. I just want to get home as fast as possible. Or, oh, I don't want to bother this person, and so I'm going to just be as quiet as possible. Or you're going to have one that is maybe in a different mood that day, because your mood is going to really depend on things. Or like maybe it's a holiday or something where they're like, oh, have a good weekend. I bet you're really busy here on Memorial Day weekend. Like I've even said things like that in like, I really don't like talking to strangers myself. And so, for example, like my ESFJ grandma always would talk to the grocery store person and say, have a good day, because she believed that why wouldn't you tell someone to have a good day? And my mom is also an ESFJ, and she used to make fun of her for doing that. And something she tells me, and she's like, when you get older, you just do that more. She's like, I'm just turning into grandma. And like it's funny because my sister is also an ESFJ, and she also would make fun of like she's like now made fun of my mom for getting into a conversation with a grocery store clerk and be like, you're acting like grandma. And then she's been like, oh, I've caught myself also acting like grandma. And I've also caught myself. Okay, I know that's like sort of a weird thing, but I guess I'm just saying like, it's almost like one of two things. You're either going to like, don't talk to me or be in that mood. But both are ways
but like, I think that like that anecdote might be confusing to like people, because I just said like FPs are the kinds that like strike up conversations. So like what's the difference then between what your grandma does and what an FP would do? Can you explain that to the audience?
Well, the thing that I'm trying to explain here is that it's the mood of the FJ that is going to influence what they're doing. You can't just say, oh, because they're talkative, they are this type.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I'm trying to sort of show how an FJ can hate talking to strangers or they can like it. Like something my ENFJ dad does that I relate to more is sort of jokes with the people. Like we went to Starbucks and this girl's name tag said Ashley. And my dad said, oh, thank God Ashley's here. Nobody else knows how to make my coffee. Like he just said something sort of like that. And she was like, and I think that's almost more of an ENFJ thing, especially ENFJ men. I feel like they just poke at people like that as a joke. Wait, I feel, or
yeah,
I didn't know
if
you're thinking.
Like,
yeah,
I've had ENFJ men joke like that to me, and I'm just like, why is that funny? Like, it just goes over my head. And I think like
it's sort of like I think EFJs, if they do things like that, it's because they almost want to make someone's day. And if an ENFJ does something like that, it's like they're trying to be weird in a way where it's like, oh man, that weird man says, like, it's not like he's trying to bond with you.
Yes, that's a distinction. You have to make that distinction.
It's almost like, if you work at Starbucks all day, it's probably going to be boring, right? But it gives you something to laugh about. Be like, oh my God, that weird man just said that. Or like, oh, somebody just said that. Or like something else my dad does is like, goes to the movie theater and like there's that little box office where there's like, it's glass and then there's like a little part where you're supposed to get your tickets. He likes to bend down and like say, I'd like 2 tickets, please. He's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me. Like, that's why I was talking through that thing. Like, and like, I think that's funny too, but like that, I think that's just like trying to pour the good vibes to everyone. It's like, I don't care if you like me, but like, at least it gives you something to laugh about.
But you could see how like someone would be like, is that FI? He's like doing that because he wants to, as opposed to get a reaction. I think I'm confused by that.
FE, we're going to probably have to switch gears here in a second, but FE as mutual benefit and value for all. One huge difference between high vibe and low vibe FE is, do you realize that your personal emotions impact the all? That is honestly a big, big thing. Because whenever FJs realize that doing what they want is actually going to create more love and positivity in the world, then everything changes. And I've talked about this before. I have a video called the ENFJ butterfly effect that I think would probably be true for many FJs. But what I want to ask you to talk about, though, is, so if FI is what matters and FE is mutual benefit, some FPs have decided that what matters is being compassionate and loving everybody. So what's the difference?
What's the difference between mutual benefit? Because it's like confusing for me, especially because as an FP, I'm like the exact demographic that probably would get like, or probably would like mistype FJs and FPs, and I've been guilty of this. Because often when you do what matters, there is a natural side effect of a mutual benefit. And often
oh no, you're breaking
the key to mutual benefit is to figure out what to you matters or the other person matters and like all these things. So I feel like it's like that's why people get like FE and FI confused, because there is some like overlap as a result. But what I think is when conflict comes up, when like the be totally different. I think it's hard to type people when they're public, when they're like joking around, like
Oh no, you're
when they're
breaking up a
happy,
little
basically. All feelers are going to get along when they're happy. Oh,
bit.
okay.
Yes.
So I was going to say though that like when Megan and I first met, I feel like we might have related to each other in a like more like not like super relate on a deep like ENFs who like social and like had friends. But I think that when we started clashing, because we would like have like issues or like have our own existential problems, is when you can really spot the difference between
Okay. That's a good point. And I hope that you guys were able to hear what she was saying. It was breaking up just a little bit, but every time it did, then you would it would still like be recording your audio, but then like speed it up weirdly.
That's
So
weird.
hopefully that doesn't happen again. The gist of it is that when they're happy, FE and FI might look similar, but when you could really notice the difference when they're fighting. So what I want to say here is like, so let's just talk about, okay, so high vibe FE is emotionally responsive, while low vibe FE is emotionally reactive.
Yes.
Low vibe FE doesn't understand how much its own emotions impact everything. Because when you are looking at all emotions, the spectrum of emotions, which FI doesn't just seek mutual benefit. FE is objective feeling. It cares about the spectrum, the breadth of emotions and feeling over an individual. And so when you have that sort of outlook, the way you feel can feel very insignificant. It's not that we don't know what we feel. It's just that my personal preference is very insignificant compared to the billions of people that exist. So because we have that worldview, what really can get FE into trouble is not thinking about their emotions. And that's why some people have said, FI, your emotions, FE, other people's emotions. And that's not wrong, but it's also not right.
Mm-hmm.
Because FE users have emotions. And we know what they are. If you ask us, we'll know. We just might not want to value them at that time.
Yeah, I feel like the difference between FE and FI is what you prioritize and stuff. And like, because I would say I'm also aware of what other people's emotions are. If I really think about it, I just don't usually care. Like maybe you relate like in an opposite way, where like what your feelings are, and if you studied them, you could be super honest.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to go there necessarily because like you'll only do it if it's mutually beneficial, truly, and stuff.
And like in socionics, like you use demonstrative FE and I have FI ignoring. And so it's one of those things where like, okay, like let's say we're at a party and Crystal gets triggered by something and is sad. Crystal, are you going to care if people are uncomfortable by you crying? No. Are you going to care if you walk out and sort of make a scene and people are like, where'd Crystal go?
No, I won't even be noticed or tuned in because I'll be too busy focusing on what I want.
That's one thing about FI, and the wisdom of FI is that it's like, why does it matter what they think? But also, FE users can know it doesn't matter what they think, but we're still tuned into what people think anyway, just naturally. So it's a lot harder to tell an FE user, well, why don't you just not care what they think? Because FE is going to be like, well, because I'm a human being and we're social creatures and everything, like the fact is that the way people think about me does impact me. So don't act like it doesn't. Because if I want to get paid, if I want a promotion, what my boss thinks about me matters. If I want to have children one day, what people think about me romantically or matters, like how I look like on paper matters, like that does matter. And FE knows how that matters, and FE can wield it as a power, or we can have all of these emotions sort of be just on top of us and suppress like who we are and what we want to be. So
that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think that ultimately FE will like try to do what it normally does when it's upset. Or okay, when it's upset, still do what it normally does, which is like look at mutual benefit. And usually because their emotions aren't like FI, where it's like always like saliently like in their face, they can usually like incorporate it into, you know, a mutual benefit flow. But when their emotions go against what would be best for the group and they repress that, you know, that's when things go haywire. And I would say, yeah, like that's the reason why you'll see an FJ kind of like very visibly pretending to be happy at a party versus I'm like, there's no use pretending because it will feel fake and probably look fake to people. So whatever.
Yeah. And I think it's like FI wants honest emotions at all costs, just as TI wants the absolute truth about facts, like at all costs. The thing is, TE is like, okay, but sometimes the real truth prevents us from moving anywhere closer to the truth, right? And like FE can say, okay, I get that you want to really cling to what matters, but sometimes in doing that, you don't get any closer. Like, I think one problem you can see with FI, for example, would be, and I'm going to try and make this not demonetized, but the political climate right now, you see side A and side B, if they just cling to what they value without even considering the other, then that's how wars start. And that's always been a bone to pick that I have with FI, is that as valuable as it is for you to value yourself no matter what, sometimes those values need to budge a little bit.
Yeah, and this is where high vibe FE comes in. High vibe FE can put aside its own emotions for the greater good, because sometimes those emotions really shouldn't be acted upon or shouldn't be validated and such. And I think that FE does a good job of at least maybe transforming that energy of what it feels into something. Like I wouldn't say it's ever healthy to like repress it, but I think FE can take a second to transform it into something useful. Like it's interesting because, not to, I guess, maybe spoil something you've been working on, but you have said that like a type of FJ is actually an optimist that people don't realize, right?
Yeah.
Can you maybe go more into like how FE is very optimistic? I mean, I know that stereotypes of NFPs are really sunny and cheery, but I think that it's different than being optimistic. And maybe you could talk about your perspective. FE makes the most of things and how high vibe FE does that. And it reaches.
Yeah. Okay. So before I get into that, what she was talking about is that I have come up with names and archetypes for each of the types that I'm going to be releasing soon. And sneak peek is that the ESFJ is titled The Optimist. I will explain more about why that is now. I also want to point, or later, but what you said also, Crystal, about transformation, I think high vibe FE is very good at transforming the values, its own values as well. Like, we don't just cling to one thing. We can adapt to making the best of the situation. That's, our emotions are so movable. And also we're used to being happy one minute, sad the next. We can be a little bit moody. Not that FI can't be moody, but it's like, it's hard to just be like, I'm angry or I'm sad and just cling to it, because if you let go, then you just watch the emotions pass over you like a cloud, and you just know that you're gonna get over it. And that's how it transforms, is by letting go of what the emotion is and not identifying with the emotion. I think FI overly identifies with the emotion, where FE will just experience the emotions passing through them. But okay, to answer your question, what was I going to say about that? I was on to something here. What did you say aside from the optimistic thing and the transformation, or am I just losing it?
Ooh, that's hard.
I was going to say something.
I think I was trying to say that like NFPs are like typed as like really sunny, but that's not always the same as like optimism, which is really cognitive thing in my opinion. And like I think FJs are great at transforming their personal emotions into something beneficial for the collective, even when it's uncomfortable. It's not always like they're just gonna be like repressed, like annoying individuals or something, right? So
okay, I think I know what I was gonna say. Is that I had an anecdote I wanted to share before I get into that. Is like I've used this example before, but let's say you're with a group of people and you're trying to decide what to order for dinner, and in your heart you want tacos more than anything. You're just craving tacos so much, but everybody else wants pizza, and you don't want pizza. You've already had pizza or like whatever. Like a lower vibe FE person wouldn't say that they want tacos. They would not put that in the equation. They would just say, well, everybody else wants pizza. And they would weigh like the drama of me saying I want tacos and everybody being mad at me, making them eat tacos they don't want tacos, or me shutting up and letting them have pizza. That's more people happy. It's very utilitarian. It's like 5 people happy versus 1 people happy. Okay, 5. And they do that. And then they just assume the emotion is going to pass through. But a higher vibe FE will say, look, I really don't want pizza. Is there anything else on the menu at that pizza place that I can order? That way you don't have to go out of your way and also get tacos. That way we're both happy. Like higher vibe FE would try and create a situation where everybody's happy. So how does that tie into the optimistic thing? So the reason why I called ESFJs optimistic is because as bitchy and anxious and annoying as they can sometimes be, and as everybody could be, they tend to have this outlook where if they're given a situation, it's almost like, what can I do to make this better? Like, what can I do to make me happier or everybody around me happier? And it's not always altruistic. It's the fact that we are ruled, FE DOMs are ruled by everybody. Like, I can't unplug from everybody around me. Like, I can't pretend like everyone is fine. So, I don't know if that's really answering your question, but like,
it is like it's like transforming their emotion as opposed to no, it's either you or me, and kind of like making it into a compromise or kind of blending it into the collective. So it's like kind of what I was saying. Well,
let me try this. So if an ESFJ found out that a loved one was diagnosed with cancer, as sad as they are, as sad as they're going to be, they have a duty to make the most of it. Like, why would they cry every single day versus enjoy the moments they have with that person? Like,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that FE is always going to just, I think it can seem really naive, honestly, and it can seem fake because it's like, don't act like you're happy that so-and-so has cancer. They aren't happy. They're trying to enjoy the person. And that is sort of the transformation and the optimism. Is that?
I mean, I'll like add to it. So basically, It seems like to me, optimism can be defined as actions more than like if you're like actually like I think that ESFJs or just EFJs always work to create with their hands and their actions a more happy future, aka like a more like happy circumstance, you know, like an external thing, versus I feel like people might associate optimism as like the feeling that you're happy even when things are going bad, which I don't think either an FI user or an FE user is really that capable. Right? Person is capable of like just ignoring reality when like shit's happening. But I think an optimist will like they'll take like the hope that things will get better if I like try and like change them. They'll take that and put into action. Is that always practical? No. Sometimes FJs can like skip over like that you should process your negative emotions about it. But the
Yeah.
fact
And
that
does it always work? No, because TE is the function that's really good at making things work.
yeah, FE isn't great at making things work in the long run, but I would say that they're good at like at least trying to create a happy vibe. And sometimes the happy vibe does prevail. So it's not like they're constantly just failing, you know, like you can't associate with that. And so what I will say is like I like high vibe FE is like a worker bee to make sure everyone's like healthy or thinking or like trying to create happiness or like just they're like a little extra push on the swing. And to me that like seems like the objective version of optimism because it just keeps you going and going as opposed to like sitting here and being like, I suddenly don't feel bad about my cancer anymore. Like no one can really do that. And like an FI user would not do that too to like solve the emotion. But an FE user will use actions to like make it easier for everyone.
Yes. So, and a key thing about what you said, all extroverted functions are more active than introverted functions. And so, while FI is going to be more aware of its emotions, FE is going to be taking more actions to change it if they don't like the emotion.
That's so true. Yes.
And
sometimes they succeed. They're not always these like naive idiots trying to like
fight
emotion. Sometimes they legitimately do. Like if they're like salty about like something not working out, they'll like get over it. They just
I feel like I'm so good at that now. Like the reason I even got into this stuff is because when I was 17, I like was fighting with friends and I got fed up with my own bullshit. And I was like, I don't want to feel unhappy and I'm going to do whatever it takes to be happy. I don't really care. Like I don't want to just accept this as it is. Well, TE I think is better as that's how it is, accept it, work with it and make it work for you, where FE is like, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to do something different to be happier. And like, I don't know, was something I said confusing to TE that you would want to?
No, it makes sense. I think
Okay.
it makes sense. Once we talk more about TE too, it'll be clear. Because I feel like people just mistake FE for FI or mistake TE for or mistake FE for TE or just it's like there's so many conceptions about all these things. But I think truly, objectively, people are always when they have FE in their Dom or Ox, they're always like reacting to something.
Yeah. And okay, also extroverted judging, so FE and TE, they're both judging functions. And so these are ways that our brains make decisions. We all have emotions and we all have thoughts, but the way that these functions work, these are cognitive functions. FE is not just the feeling of being happy or sad. FE is a way that we use emotions to make decisions. It's preferring to use emotions to make decisions than our thoughts. Our thoughts and our emotions are just things that exist in the head that we can either choose to pay attention to or not. So FE is not just reacting with happiness or sadness depending on the mood. It's using your happiness or sadness as a way to make a decision to achieve mutual benefit. So I have an example actually that shout out to belated INTP if you're listening to this, because I responded to one of her tweets and realized this. She was asking about how do FJs use their TI. And if you really think about FE and TI being two sides of the same coin, the way the FJs are going to be making decisions is still going to have that sort of TI troubleshooting desire for truth in the background at all times. But I think one way that I look at it is that I think, okay, so let's see all these categories of happiness. There's career, there's friendship, there's family, there's romance, there's money, there's whatever, there's all these things. And I want to be happy. All of these things need to be at least in some good of a shape. It's like sort of general health of the things that make me happy. And I'm going to do the things I'm good at, and then I'm going to have to lean on somebody else or ask them for help to compensate for the things I'm bad at. because that's how you actually be happy. That's how you actually change your mood. And it takes collaboration to get there. You can't do it on your own.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people just have these like bad tastes in their mouth associated with low vibe FE, which can be very needy seeming. Even when they're being needy, they're still trying to like read what the objective benefit is. And I think that expressing what's going on with them to someone they care about is a way to get information to make a mutual compromise. But often when they're needy, they don't realize how their personal emotions are affecting the way that their tone sounds or how they come off. So people aren't going to want to be around it. But even low vibe FE isn't being like selfish necessarily the way like, you know, they're not like self-focused. They're literally just like poking at you, trying to get you to tell them the information that they think they need or whatever.
Low vibe FE could be just more emotionally repressed and less aware of what their emotions are.
And like when you're emotionally repressed as an FE user, you're gonna lash out more and not be nice and like all these things. And people seem to think that emotionally repressed people just don't talk and like hold up in their rooms alone, sad. FE is not that way always. Even like introverted like FJs, they'll like have like just like not all FJs are really like needy and lash out, but even like the quiet ones are just, oh my God, extremely like angry and like confused.
They
and,
don't
like,
know how to manage their own triggers because they don't know what their triggers are. And so they don't know how to remove themselves from a situation that's not working for them.
Busy trying to read other people's triggers. And it's like, dude, like, please, the only way you can remove the only way to know your own triggers is to spend time alone enough to hear what's louder. You can't hear that if you're with someone else.
When I was younger, I was so deathly afraid to be alone. Because when I was alone, I was perfectly aware that I wasn't happy with myself. Like, and I just would do things to avoid that.
I remember. I remember it was like, I'm afraid to be alone. I'm like, but that's the only way to like get right with like what essentially is your like subconscious, in my opinion, FI. And FE is like, no, like this is not mutually beneficial for me to sit here and like gloat, or not like gloat, sorry, like be gloomy and like, you know, misery and like wallow. I need to like be out there creating mutual benefit and optimism. And I'm like, not that attitude.
Well, the reason FJs have a hard time just really sitting with their emotions is because we know when other people need us or even think they need us. But the problem is we aren't always great at knowing when something's a codependent relationship or not. And so like if somebody is just guilting us because of their own issues, we don't have sort of the FI accuracy to be like, it's okay, they don't really need me right now. That what they really need is for me to be healthy.
You guys are really bad at that.
So like we can just sort of feel the pull of like, let's say we used to hang out with people every single weekend. We used to go out drinking every weekend. We realized, hey, I don't think that's really good for me right now. As opposed to saying no to a friend, we're so aware that saying no is going to make them upset in the short term, but we aren't always aware of like, okay, well, in the long term, well, that's just their own shit that they're projecting onto me. That's what you've helped me understand.
Yeah. I've been trying to get better at FE, but it's really hard because sometimes I'm like afraid of compromising all the good FI I've learned because I'm like,
oh yeah,
people's desires sometimes stupid, but so are mine. Like, what do you do?
I am realizing how much I have to say on this. Like, one thing I want to say though is that I believe that we need high vibe FE more than absolutely anything on this planet right now. And we will talk about this in more videos. I know that you have said before that you think society sort of dismisses FE on a grand scale. I think a lot of it has to do with the patriarchy in general, the fact that FE is very feminized when people talk about it, whether you're a woman or not. People talk about it as though it's this weird feminine thing. They try and shove down that power. The fact is, we're not happy. Collectively, people aren't happy, and that needs to fucking change now. Like, that's the fact. And so don't tell me that we don't need to focus more on other people and solving this problem. You can go in isolation all you want and know your emotions, but if you can't change them, it does not matter because you're going to stay that way forever.
Yeah, because I would say it's like a balance of like, FI helps you get aware of the emotion, but then like, you know, transforming it, you kind of need FE, but FE can't transform it if it's not aware of it. So it's like a two.
Yeah.
it's like a balance thing, and I think people sometimes think you should have one over the other, and that's not true.
No one person who is a human can be perfect at their love life, their career, their family. Nobody. That's why when people try and be an entrepreneur and go and do things for themselves, they realize over time, you know what? I really like speaking and working with people, but I really don't like accounting and doing my books. Or, you know, I'm really detail oriented, but I really don't get the big picture. That's why people hire each other. That's why we lean on each other. And anybody who is afraid to lean on each other, you're never, ever, ever, ever going to be happy, because the fact is that all these categories of life that is required to make you happy, you could not possibly be good enough to do it.
It's like mutually beneficial. Like you need to be like, oh, well, that's what you are good at. And that's what I'm good. Like,
Yes.
It's like but I think FE is like the one that's like pointing out that you need to delegate in the first place.
FI knows what you're good at though.
Yeah, but I'm saying like FI can identify it, and then FE can like put it into practice. Cause like, yeah.
Sorry for getting so riled up.
You're all good. I feel like, because I have to like leave soon, so I think the main thing is that like FE, high vibe FE cannot be seen clearly for what it is unless people like stop in the type community, stop putting FI on a pedestal and stop associating FE with like, you know, your mom like nagging at you or being needy, or your like girlfriend not understanding you and like giving you space. Like everyone has all these weird associations with FE as extremely like negative and like, or like extremely kind of like fakely giving, when both of those behaviors manifest from the same desire for mutual benefit. And that desire can manifest in positive or negative effects, but it's still the same through and through. And so when you're trying to type an FJ, you're going to have to look at their inner cognition to figure out what their motivation is when they're being really nice to you or really like, you know, jokey or something, because it's not the same as an FP's. And it's like, yeah, like I'm just like kind of like, I've kind of noticed that people like have thought I was like a J, like have thought I was an FJ if I'm like talking to them, or thought I was a TJ if I'm like doing my business thing. And I'm like, yo, like that just tells me a lot about how like people just don't seem to know like why like it can seem so polar. People are like, FJs are crazy, they'll be like really nice to you and suddenly blow up at you, and it's like, well, I don't think you are looking at the root of like what's been consistent the whole time.
Yes, and actually let me say that something about that really quick is that people have said that to me, where what happens is they are in my inner circle and then they treat me in a way that I don't like to be treated. And so I say, you don't get to treat me that way if you're in my inner circle, because I have standards of emotional behavior. FE and FI are both standards for like values, where FI will be more internal, FE is more of like this external standard. That's why we're so naggy.
Yeah, and like what I will say though, because I think that people watching this, a lot of them are also just like, you know, hopefully trying to like you know, understand FE better, and like if they're having like issues with like, you know, being either you're a misunderstood FJ, or like your loved one is or either your loved one is misunderstanding you, or you're misunderstanding an FJ. What Megan and I kind of figured out, what I had to figure out with like as someone who's not an FJ, was like the more information I give and the more I explain like my process, even when it's like excruciating, I don't think it's going to matter. That's helped my relationship with FJs because their motivation is always mutual benefit. And I think simply having faith in that existing was what helped me really understand type and understand like FJ and understand Megan. So
I almost even want to say that high vibe and low vibe FE look the most different compared to.
Ooh, I was gonna say that too.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
But I also want to say that I think society, there's a lot of low vibe FE users out there because society is not fun for FE right now. Like the
Yes.
rule book is that you have to get all these credentials and then make all this money and then be an individual. And if you're an adult, you have to not have friends and you have to work all day. Like that's not fun for FJs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we should talk more about this, like in general.
Yeah.
So much more we could probably say from personal anecdotes.
We might have to have a few FE episodes
Yeah,
before we
because
move on.
I think that like, yeah, society, there are low vibe FE users because they're just low vibe. They're not like bad people. It's just like, it's a hard time for anyone
for us. Yeah.
definitely. But on that note, I need to leave for now. But I definitely, yeah, I do think that there is like some debunking, but also a lot of explaining to be done, because you're right, it does manifest so like bleakly differently, because I think the spectrum is so extreme right now for like in the world. High vibe FE has like hacked a way to figure out how to be happy, but then there's a lot of low vibe FE. Like it's because of the conditions of the world that it manifests differently, because there was a collective. So yeah.
I just want to say I've been typed as pretty much every single type in the book. And the happier I get, the more people question that I'm an FE Dom, which if you were to see me in my everyday life, there's no way in hell I'm a thinker. There's just not. Like,
yeah, like it's kind of like
this is a place where I'm showing up as an expert because I understand people and I've spent the time to invest in this.
A very different space. Like y'all, like if you took a time machine with me and like looked at our like history and trajectory, like
once an FJ shows up and is actually confident in who they are, you can't be an FJ anymore.
Pretty much.
The most powerful people in the world, in my opinion, have been FJs that flipped that switch.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Anyways, I gotta go for now. But we should definitely still talk about this.
Okay. I'm going to sort of do an outro after you leave.
We need to like let people like hack like how we figured it out and how we get it. Okay, bye.
All right. Bye, Crystal. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening/watching this video. If you did not know, Synchronic Saturdays is on iTunes and it is on Spotify as well. Those will be linked below. Oh, and it's also on SoundCloud. So whatever floats your boat. And I also just wanted to let you guys know, I apologize for sort of being gone, not really on the internet as much or posting on YouTube. But Crystal and I have developed a way that we want to type people, and I'm just tying up the loose ends with that. I have names and archetypes for all 16 types. I have a questionnaire, and we will be making a video about that very soon once all of the puzzle pieces are in order and we are ready to offer that. I also am going to be offering, like if you have a question, that if you'd like me to further clarify anything I've said, or if you just want to better understand my views on something, that I'm going to be launching that as well too. And I know a lot of you guys know that I have done life coaching in the past. I also just figured out mentorship that I'm going to be offering as well. And all of those mentorship packages come with a free typing service, because I'm not going to be helping anybody unless I have verified their type. So those things are coming soon. I'm very, very excited about that. I have something that's like, if you're interested in my typing services and you want me to let you know, I have that as like a link below. If you are excited about this and you want me to inform you directly when these are ready, or else just, subscribe and you will find out soon. I'm sorry I don't have an exact date, but the month of June, like maybe next week. I'm very, very excited about that. And I also have a free Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. I'm an attendant on a Discord server that also talks about personality for self-growth. That's below as well. I'm so excited about talking about FE. I'm happy to be back on this podcast, and we will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day.